Hi, I'm Shreya and this is Decoding Code. In this video, we will be doing a problem-solving process and it will be building on my previous video. So if you haven't watched that video, then I suggest that you go ahead and watch it because it will be sort of confusing for you if you haven't watched it. And without further ado, let's just get right into it. So the video will kind of go like this. I'll tell you the problem that we have to solve, and then I'll show you how I want you to think in order to try and figure out on your own how to solve it, and then I will give you the solution if you still haven't got it. The first step is the problem. So what's my problem? If you see here in the console, we have all of the steps to sorting this array, except the last step is repeated twice. And that is my problem. I don't want the computer to do this extra step of repeating this last line twice. And what it's basically doing is that, so after have I swapped is equal to true in this last one, it doesn't end immediately. It still has to go through and figure out that it's false, and it already swapped and did all the things that it had to do. So I want to get rid of this entire step and just do something simple to kind of let the computer know that it's done its job and the loop can stop here. So what can I do to solve this? Now, my brain, first when I thought about this, it kind of went to checking if it was least to greatest. And so that would basically just be doing the same thing that it does here, which then I realized was wrong. It's an extra step that's not necessary. So if I can't search and see if it's least to greatest and check that, then what can I check? So here we have it. This is where I'm gonna tell you what I want you to kind of think. So searching for least to greatest is searching if it's right and searching if there's no problems and it's all good and so it can move on. But I want you to sort of think the opposite. We're searching for no problems. We're searching for the fact that it's done with its code. But what if we search for the opposite? So I'm gonna give you some time to think on this and sort of see what you can come up with in your own brain, because problem solving is a huge part of code because you will probably run across a lot of problems in your code. And so I want you to think about this on your own and try and figure out what's wrong here and what we can fix by doing something very simple. And so I'll give you some time, and when I come back, we will have the solution and I'll tell you what it is. So please pause the video and think. Hi again. We are back. And I have put in the solution here, if you can see anything different. So if you have come up with anything, make sure and see if what you've done is right. So maybe see my code and see what you've done and see if what you thought was right. And there might be more ways to do this than I thought, but this is the way that I am going to do this. So the way that I thought was, in have I swapped, you're thinking about the positives. So you're thinking about there's no problems, and if it's correct and everything's all good, then you can it can be done. But I wanted to think about the negatives because it's way easier here to think about the negatives. So I created this boolean called all done and I set it equal to true. And then I put this if statement here, stating that if I, the one that I'm working on right now, is less than the one before it, that means there's a problem and it's not all done. So that is setting it all done to false. So if I is less than the one before it, then I'm setting all done to false because it's not done and it still needs to be worked on. So after this print statement that I put to just show all the steps, I set if all done is true, then break. Because if all done is true, that means there are no problems. It's all done. Then break basically means to break out of the loop. And so what I was talking about before, the negatives, I'm looking for problems. And if there are no problems, then I just break, because then the loop is not needed anymore and I've done my job. All done is basically just checking for any problems or if the array isn't in order yet. And then if all done is false, then it isn't in order. And if all done is true, then you can break. Yeah, the computer doesn't do any needless steps, and all done is basically just checking for any problems. And if there are none, then the loop is done and it doesn't have to go through again. The whole code works together and it's amazing because this small thing can make a big difference, especially if you're doing large projects. So if you keep having these small buildups of unnecessary code, then your computer has unnecessary steps and then it's using more power than it needs to use to get to where it needs to go. So this was actually pretty fun, and this was problem solving, and problem solving is so important when you're coding, and it's very vital because if you come across a problem later, then you'll be able to know how to solve your problem and get to the bottom of your situation and keep coding. And it's basically like math homework. And I know we don't like math homework. Well, I don't like math homework, but it's practicing so that you can get comfortable with the concept, and it's practicing so that you can get it down. And problem solving is a great skill to have because then you won't get frustrated at your code or frustrated at the world when you can't code or can't solve some problem. So problem solving is amazing, and that's actually what we'll be doing in my next video. I'll be creating a kind of problem and then solving it so that my brain can kind of connect the dots and you can go through the kind of thinking process and kind of understand your concepts by problem solving. And so I really hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, then please give me a thumbs up and subscribe to my channel for more content. If you want, you can also comment down below any questions or feedback you guys might have for me, and I will see you again next week with that new video. Bye!